Happy New Year. This is Language for Life segments. Today we are doing adjectives. We're going to look at adjectives. I'm finding with these chapters, because what I'm doing with these segments is not only giving us a bit more time to look into the deeper level stuff about parts of speech, but it's also helping me to rewrite the Language for Life book, which will come out again this year. And what I find, and you've probably found this too, is that there are some parts of speech that have a lot going on, and some parts of speech that cause errors in children's writing. So there's a tendency for children to make errors based on certain parts of speech. And we've looked at that in terms of pronouns, tense, agreement, so pronouns, nouns, and verbs. There are other parts of speech where there's not, people don't really make a lot of errors, and adjectives is one of those. Adjectives are kind of easy. They're kind of easy. So the information that we have today, you have to make a choice as to whether you're going to turn that into lessons. But always bear in mind when you're doing lessons with children, it's to help, well, in my view, if you're doing grammar lessons with children, it's to help them become better at speaking and writing, but mostly writing, because writing's really hard. And you'd make grammatical errors, or people make grammatical errors in writing. With adjectives, I don't see a lot of errors. So the things that we're doing today, the work that we're doing together today, is about expanding and broadening your information and your knowledge regarding adjectives. We go into, I actually posted, and you may have seen the graphic. I actually posted this graphic about adjective order on social media at the weekend, and then I had to keep explaining, you don't have to teach this to children. That's not what this is for. This is one of my jobs, and I don't see students anymore. Got a couple of tutors here today that do see students at Lifelong Literacy, but I don't anymore. My students are teachers. My students are adults who want to teach other people. So I've taken a step back. This is for you. This is not for our students, right? The adjective order stuff that we do, and some other things that we're going to do today. So there is our intro. Does anyone have any questions, anything that they want to say or ask before we get on with the presentation proper? If you do have questions, if there's anything that you'd like to say or ask, you've got two alternatives. You can unmute yourself and talk, and that's great. I love that. And you can also put your question in chat as well. I'll try to answer every question. I'll try to get back to every comment. What you're going to need, though, is this work along manual. So hopefully you've got a copy of that, either digitally or in front of you. It's, again, if you remember verbs, if you were there for verbs, that was huge. That was almost 40 pages, that manual, because verbs are so intricate. Whereas with adjectives, we got 12 pages. So that's going to give you an idea of how much material there is around adjectives. All right, let's get on with it. I'm going to share my screen with you now. So look out for that. And we have got part 4, adjectives. Now, we're going to look at 7 different parts of speech. We're and we're just over halfway through now. All of this builds cumulatively, of course, but these sections, these segments can be done independently as well. The reason I write any of this stuff is to try and assist making grammar teaching interesting and useful. And the way in which I recommend that we do that is that we do things like analyzing the syntactic elements of the language. So when I say syntactic elements, I mean the words and phrases and clauses and sentences of language and its conventions. And the way that we do that, or my approach to that, is defining and expanding our definition of each word class. We're also going to, with words, and today is like the big demonstration of this, we're going to show how words interact with one another to form grammatical utterances. And also along the way, I hope that we can dispel some certain myths about grammar. The big myth about adjectives is that adjectives are describing words that end, okay? Actually, what I prefer to call adjectives are descriptive noun servants, okay? They are in the service of nouns. That's what they're for. They serve nouns. They don't describe other words. Next week, we're going to look at adverbs, and they are the ones, they really are the describing words, because they describe all sorts of, they modify all sorts of other words, but adjectives are for nouns. If you cast your mind back to the three broad categories that I talk about, we are here at this point here in that third box. We've covered nouns, determiners, and pronouns, and we've covered verbs. And you can see that those categories here are separate, bigger, and higher than the others, because these are the universals. These are the things that you have to have in an utterance if that utterance is going to be grammatical and complete. So you've got to have nouns and you've got to have verbs. Yep. Now we're into the additional stuff, the additional area. So we've got things and the do be have, that's nouns and verbs. But now we're going to describe those things. So adjectives, as you can see, there is one arrow only that comes out of the adjective box. So these sort of dynamic arrows show relationships. It is a one-headed arrow and it goes towards pronouns and nouns. So it only goes into this box. Adjectives are there only for nouns and pronouns. Other words can describe adjectives. Can you see adverbs here going into adjectives? That's what adverbs are for, right? And we'll talk a bit more about this next time too. Adverbs can also modify other adverbs and they can modify verbs, but adjectives, they are descriptive noun servants. They're for nouns. That's it. Once we finish adverbs, we're going to look at connecting words as well. And that will be the final segment, final two segments, the connectors. But let's get on to with adjectives. First of all, the definition. And again, an adjective as a describing word is not enough. It's actually not enough. What I like to say is that they describe, they modify, and they give more information about nouns. You got to have nouns in the definition. That's what adjectives are for. If you look at the etymology of adjective, you've got Latin ad, meaning to or towards, and jacere, to throw, to form adject, meaning added. And if you look at, and if you look at it in your handout on page 2, I've talked about adjectives are thrown towards the subject and the object. Those are the nouns, right? So in a sentence has a subject and it can sometimes have an object. Adjectives are thrown towards that. They describe nouns. When we mark adjectives in our analysis, we're going to place them in brackets with a superscript line going to the noun or nouns that they modify. And that gives us sentences that begin to look like this. So now we've got determiner, the, all that sort of thing. If you did the noun segment, we talked a lot about determiner. So this is a possible sentence now. It's a possible grammatical construction. Determiner, noun, verb, but in between determiners and nouns, you can place adjectives. So they are in brackets because it's additional information. I could take an adjective out of an utterance and I would still have a grammatical utterance. There is order though. Some adjectives can also come after a verb as well. And some, here's the really interesting part, we'll look at that a bit together as well. Some can only go before a noun. They can't go after the noun. And some can only go after the verb. And we'll look at those. And some can do both. Most adjectives can do both, but there are some that can only go before the noun or after the verb. All right, let's have a look. Let's have a look at some of the facts. There's lots and lots of facts about adjectives. The very first fact, of course, is that adjectives modify nouns. That's the first thing. Second thing, though, let's look at some of the facts. Before we get on to that, there are lots of things that we know as native speakers. There are lots of things that we know unconsciously without having been taught. And adjectives can be described to be something that we know quite a lot about, even if we've never been taught it. It's amazing that we know all of this stuff without being explicitly taught. You can take adjectives, though, and you can divide them into smaller and smaller categories, always according to their behavior and their position in the sentence. So it's not a coincidence that I'm making these parts of speech into characters, right, into human characters, because they have behavior and they have relationships just like humans, right? Also, though, instead of being called a describing word, adjectives are used to modify nouns. So modify is the word that I'm going to bring more. I'm going to talk about modification more than description. The list that we're doing here, as I said at the beginning, it's intended for you as a teacher. It's intended for your use. How much you use this in lessons is absolutely up to you. But this is for teacher knowledge. So here are some facts. First of all, describing words, adjectives describe nouns. So we've got an example here. Birds are feathered. Subject of the sentence is birds. And in our analysis, we put circles around nouns and we put circles around pronouns and determiners. We put lines underneath verbs. So now you can see the relationship. Birds are feathered. And feathered is modifying the word bird. When you've got be verbs, are, am, is, and so on, any conjugation, any form of the verb be, when you've got that, you can place an adjective straight after. Again, don't get fooled. Because a word ends with ed, which is commonly associated with verbs, it doesn't make it a verb. What it's doing in the sentence, its position in the sentence and the relationship that it has with other words, that's what determines the lexical category. That's what determines what verb, that's what determines what part of speech the word is. So, your turn. We've got birds are feathered. What I want you to do is on page 2, I want you to, on page 3, I want you to annotate some dinosaurs were feathered, they are now extinct. So words that you don't have a lexical category for, that you're not sure, just leave, but put circles around the nouns, put lines underneath the verbs and brackets around the adjectives. Go for it, and then we'll do it together. Shall we do these together? So, some dinosaurs were feathered. With some, you could say that's a determiner, and I'm happy to do that. It's a word that gives us quantity, but a kind of vague quantity, so it modifies that noun, not modifies, sorry, it limits the referent of that noun in a very specific way. If you didn't have that, that's also okay. There are other ways to talk about words like some. There are other lexical categories that you can put them into, but undeniably, some and dinosaurs are linked. Whether your link is via a determiner, or you could say the word some is modifying dinosaurs. So you could also put brackets around it instead of a circle. That's up to you. I'm very interested to see what you did. We've got our verb were, and then we've got our adjective feathered. So dinosaurs were. They're connected with a subscript arrow. I hope yours is prettier than mine. Did anyone have anything different? Lots of shaking heads. All right, that's fine. Let's go to the next one. So we've got they. Now we have a pronoun, and it's making us think of our referent. Our referent back here is dinosaurs. So they are, so we've got subject and verb. Then we've got the word now. However, it's not, the word now is not modifying they, it's modifying extinct. So extinct is modifying the noun or the pronoun. And now doesn't have a category yet because now is modifying extinct. Yeah, it's modifying extinct. If it's modifying, if a word is modifying something other than a noun, it's not an adjective, but it's coming up, right? So hopefully you got that. In the chat, does feathered get an arrow back to dinosaurs? Ooh, yes. Who said that? I can't see from the button that I've got here. Let me see. Mara, yes, absolutely. Let me get rid of the chat for a second. Sorry. Yes. Feathered, of course, is modifying dinosaurs. Thank you for spotting that. You're absolutely right. Very good stuff. All right, on to the dog. We've got our determiner, the, doing very much the same thing as some. Then we've got the subject of the sentence, dog. So they are together. And then we've got will be. So we've got this word will plus our verb be going together as the whole verb. So we've got an auxiliary there. They will be hungry. Sorry, the dog will be hungry, and hungry is our adjective and it's modifying dog. So it definitely goes back to dog. Did everyone get that? Yay, fabulous. All right. He will be tired too. So he is a pronoun and it's the subject of the sentence. Its referent is dog. Will be is our verb and we've got tired. Did anyone mark two? Did anyone wonder about two?
Yes, I wondered about two.
You wondered about two, Mara? Do you have any further wonderings on that? Do you want to share what you wondered, or?
Just like with now, I don't know if modifying is the right word for extinct, is two somehow adding on to tired or changing. Yeah. But I don't know what it's called though. What is two called?
Do you want to know? Because we're doing it next week. It's adverbs.
An adverb?
So anything that modifies any other part of speech is an adverb.
It is. So is now an adverb also then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. In this construction here, and we'll do lots of adverb stuff next time. Now is modifying extinct, but if you are not modifying a noun, you are not an adjective, right? You're an adverb. That's what adverbs do. That's their job. And so you'll see the visual for adverbs when we get to the very end. I call them the flying squad. I'm not sure in America, because we do have some people from America joining us today. In America, do you have this thing in the police called the flying squad? Have you ever heard of the flying squad, or is that a UK thing?
I've not heard of it, in New York at least.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, hopefully you Australians and New Zealanders have heard of a flying squad, but a flying squad is like a specially trained group in the police that can do all the jobs, right? So they fly in, so they're really good, they're really awesome police, right? They're very, very experienced and they can do any of it. That's called the flying squad. And yeah, so adverbs are the flying squad. They modify lots of things. Everyone happy with that? All right, let's move on. So you've got some examples that you can, I've put example boxes for you to write notes or to write your own examples or examples that have come up that we've shared with one another. You don't have to fill in the boxes, but those are kind of the areas for your notes to go back to as we go on. All right, now, next thing that adjectives do, the next way that you can test that something is an adjective is like this. Because we're looking at testing. Testing, when you're figuring out what part of speech a word is, you can apply certain tests. And one of the tests that you can apply to adjectives is comparative and superlative. That is the grammatical name for more and most. So most adjectives can be modified to express comparative and superlative by adding the suffix er or the suffix est, or by adding more or most to that adjective. So that's one thing that you can't add er and est, that meaning meaning more, and est to any other part of speech. You can only add them to adjectives. The way that I get students to, when we're discussing the suffixes er and est, meaning more and most, I draw their attention to has an R, so does more. Means more, and est has an st, so does most. Right? It's not a coincidence. Do you know what I mean? They are related. So these two suffixes, more and most, and est, mean exactly the same thing. exactly the same thing. There's also quite a lot of certainty regarding which one you would choose. So it's one of those things that most people know, although one of the adjective errors that younger children make is that they'll select and ist when they should be selecting more and most. It usually all just rinses out, right? They get through osmosis, really, through their oral language. Children learn where to use and ist and where to use more and most. But it's also something that can be explicitly taught, especially if you're working with children who have language impairments, who have developmental disorders of language. One of the things that they find it difficult to do is develop a sense of all of this on their own. They need to be explicitly taught. So and ist, more and most is a good starting point with adjectives. And people say, little kids and people still struggling with the language will say things like, that's my favoritist, right? So you know that someone's still coming to grips with what we sort of have absorbed when they're using more and most or and ist in the wrong place. So there are some general rules. It goes like this. If we've got words like one syllable words like large, we can put and ist on there. So some of our examples are sharks are larger than minnows. So that's on page 3. Hummingbirds are among the smallest birds. And here's the other thing. When children with ist, especially est, you can't really sound that syllable out, right? You can't sound it out because we don't say small est. If you're familiar at all with syllable emphasis, and this is all in Spelling for Life, so I can't go into it too much, but did you know that in words of more than one syllable, there's always a strong syllable? It's always one that you hear clearest. It's the one that we put our emphasis on because English is a stress-timed language. There are certain rules about where we place emphasis when we're talking. Yep. And one of the things do is that we will put emphasis on, we'll choose one syllable to put emphasis on, and the rest of them, the vowels in the weaker syllables, we tend to reduce, and that's what schwa is, right? Now, we don't pronounce the vowels in unaccented syllables quite in the way that phonics will teach us, right? So we don't say small est. Most kids say small ist and they write ist. Yep, smallest, largest, and so on. So it's a really good idea, actually, in terms of spelling, to explicitly state that the suffix meaning most is est. You can't sound it out. There is no sounding that out. You need to know that. You need to know the sequence of those letters. Salmon are more plentiful in spring, and crocodiles are the most fearsome predators. Now, we choose and ist and more and most based on certain things. First of all, if the adjective is one syllable, it will tend to take ist form. So my examples here are thin and young and old. One syllable words: thinner, thinnest, younger, youngest, older, oldest. Yep. We tend to do that with one syllable words. If we get adjectives with two syllables, what we tend to do is we choose and ist if the two syllable adjective ends with So we've got bitter, bitterer, bitterest. And it would seem like to put another on it, to put another at the end, it would seem counterintuitive, but actually we tend to do that. So we've got bitter, clever, I'm cleverer than you, you're the cleverest person in the room. Dapper, eager, limber, meager when it's spelled ER. So US spelling, for all our US friends there, you guys, you will put ER, somberer, somberest, meager, meagerest, sober, soberest, and so on. And we also tend to, a lot of the time, some accents, I should say, not all accents, but let's take a word like clever, and we add the comparative and superlative, cleverer, cleverest. A lot of accents will actually take away that first and they'll go cleverest. Yep, there's a syllable elision in there. Some people do that, some people don't. You can't rely on the way that they say it, right? You cannot rely on pronunciation for this sort of thing. So words that end with ER, there are some. Words that end with LE, little, littler, littler, littlest. We tend not to say more little. We tend to, with LE and ER words, add ER and EST. Got able and brittle, feeble, fickle, gentle, humble, idle, nimble. This isn't an exhaustive list, by the way. These are the ones that I came up with while I was writing this. There's probably more examples. Feel free to suggest them. Feel free to write them in. Words ending in OW, like yellow, yellower, yellowest. We don't really say more yellow. We don't really say more hollow. We don't say more mellow. We go mellower, mellowest, mellowest. Bit of a tongue twister there, but there you go. Also, words ending in some, like handsome, gruesome, lonesome, and toothsome. We tend to say handsomer, handsomest, and so on. And words ending in E over the page, the suffix E. So we've got that adjective forming suffix E, and you can see that all of these endings are adjective forming. You can have other words that have these endings that indicate other parts of speech, but LE, OW, some, and E are adjective forming elements of words as well. So we've got muddy, muddier, and muddiest. And what we do when we've got a word that has that adjective forming suffix, can you see the formation of muddy? We've got base mud, then we've added the suffix, so mud is a noun, but if we want to make that into an adjective, we can add an adjective forming suffix, which is E. However, we have to double the D because this base here fits the pattern, last three CVC. So there's consonant, vowel, consonant. If you add a vowel suffix, and that's what the letter Y is, yep, the letter Y is considered a vowel unless it's at the beginning of a word or a syllable boundary. It is considered a vowel everywhere else in a word. So when you add a vowel suffix to a last three CVC word, what you've got is a double D. That will also happen with return of illegal I. So the letter Y is there in muddy because you can't use I you can't use at the end of words, right? There's a spelling convention that says don't do that. So when you add a suffix, it's no longer the end of a word, so we can bring I back. That's what's going on there. That's why muddier looks like that and muddiest looks like that. There you go. That's all in Spelling for Life. But what we have here is adjective forming suffixes, and these ones tend to take est in two-syllable words. Adjectives with more than two syllables, it's really simple. Don't use and est, right? So that's why favoritist doesn't work, okay? Interestingest, it doesn't work. Adding another syllable onto that word it's starting to violate a principle, again, that we might not be conscious of, but did you realize that in English, we don't tend to go past 5 syllables in words? There are some words, of course, names of chemicals and massively compounded words that go over 5 syllables, but mostly our tier 2 words, tier 2 vocabulary, even in literate language, doesn't go beyond 5. So with interesting or interesting, yep, we tend to shy away from 5 syllables even. So instead of interestingest, we go more interesting. And that helps us say it a little bit better. Same with dangerous. We don't have dangerousest. With us, O-U-S, that is also an adjective forming suffix. It sounds very, very, very like est. So even a 2-syllable word like famous, we will not use est. Famousest is a little bit too ambiguous to say. More famous, sorry, most famous. Yep. Words like sophisticated and so on. We tend not to use and est. So actually, syllable length is probably the chief determinant of the correct form of whether we use and est or whether we use more and most. But you can basically use and est, more and most with the majority of adjectives. There are some that you can't, and we'll come back to those soon. Any questions about comparative and superlative, the supreme test for adjectives? All right, then, let's carry on. Adjectives can also, this is another way that you can test whether it's an adjective, they can directly follow the word not. So if we've got fish are warm-blooded, we can now put not right before it, and we've still got a grammatical utterance. Fish are not warm-blooded, birds are not cold-blooded. Yeah. So if we were going to annotate that, I'll give you a minute to annotate fish are not warm-blooded, birds are not cold-blooded. You can probably figure out what the word not is and what it's doing there. Go for it. Put a circle around the nouns, a line underneath the verbs, and brackets around the adjectives. What did you get? I'll give you a minute. I think it's okay for me now to put circles around the nouns. I think everybody should be pretty good with that now. What's your verb are? Hope so. And then we've got not. I'm not going to annotate not right now, but the adjective here is warm-blooded. Do you see how we've got two words there? That's okay, right? Same with cold-blooded. It's still an adjective. And it won't mean the same if we took out warm or if we took out blooded, right? It's got to be warm-blooded to get that specific meaning across. So that whole thing is a unit. That whole thing is an adjective. So that is modifying fish. So what's not doing? What's not doing in this construction? Well, it's also a modifier, right? But it's not modifying fish, it's modifying warm-blooded. And that makes it an adverb. So it's very, very difficult to actually, it's very difficult to talk about modifiers as adjectives only, right? As, you know, they're either adverbs or adjectives, that's it. So it's very hard to separate them out, but we'll do some adverbial work next time too. Everybody happy with that? Is that what you got? Oh, I think there's a question. That was confusing because I thought it was modifying not. You thought what was modifying not? Are. Well, you know, it's really interesting. Okay, I'm glad you brought that up, Mara, because when we contract, we actually squish are and not together. So I'm not saying, right, that there isn't a relationship there. I'm not saying that there isn't a relationship. However, let's look at it this way, right? Let's take away that that verb are, okay? And we could replace it with all sorts of, words like fish seem, fish appear, and so on. The sense of the sentence would change somewhat, but the sense of cold-blooded wouldn't. The only thing that not is modifying here is cold-blooded, right? They're that's the job of not is to switch cold-blooded on or off. So we could take are, and yes, they have a relationship, of course they do, but they're not. It's not one of modification. What's being modified is the adjective. Fish are not big. Fish are big. Yep. Not is not. You know, it's not that its job is to switch our adjective on or off. That's it. That's its job. It's modifying that rather than modifying the verb. That's how I see it. I don't know, Mara. I mean, I like your view because when we contract, we don't contract not and cold-blooded, right? We contract are and not. So I think you have quite a good argument there that there's a possible relationship here. I don't know. What does everybody else think? Like, that's possible, isn't it? That construction there. Although I keep going to, if I took away not and put in a different adverb such as very or massively, or it's always that relationship with cold-blooded, switching that adjective on or off that I'm seeing there, rather than the relationship with the verb. It gives more sense, I think. I think the relationship is stronger, but that's my view. I'd be happy to talk it further. Yeah, because if I took away cold-blooded, fish or not, it wouldn't work. I don't know. What does everybody else think? I really like the question.
Yeah, that when you said if I take away cold-blooded, then birds are not small. I mean, then it doesn't work. Then it makes me realize that not is attached more to cold-blooded.
That's definitely my feeling, Mara. Definitely my feeling that their attachment is not is a switch, and it's
because if I put in small, birds are not small. Well, they actually generally are. Then it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yep, absolutely.
It's really more attached to the cold-blooded than to the not.
Yeah,
I mean, to the R, rather. Yeah,
that's my feeling. Although, isn't it funny that we contract when we make a contraction, that we squish those two words together, because nobody's saying they don't have a relationship. Of course they do. And sometimes they have such a strong relationship, that we squash them together. But yeah, my view is that that's an adverb, because here's the other thing. You can take the word not and you can modify. Here's something else, right? You did verbs, didn't you, Mara? Did you do the verb section?
Yes, I did.
Cool. All right. So let's look at not in a different construction, right? We are not swimming, right? So we'll look at that. We are not swimming. Now, we've got the verb, and the main verb here is swim, right? And that's got an auxiliary, which just happens to be a form of be, right? So we've got our subject, we, and our swimming is our verb. We can modify that. We can modify the verb. And that's how adverbs modify verbs. That's how not modifies verbs, when there's a verb after it. Does that make sense? Rather than going back and modifying are, where the connection is much stronger between not and the verb. So I think that, does that make it clearer?
Yes, it does. Mm-hmm.
But you know what? We're coming to adverbs next time. Oh, where have we gone? Coming to adverbs next time as well. So, well, I think we'll do lots more of not and never and so on and ever and so on, because they're the hard parts. They're the hard bits of adverbs. But right now, is if you're satisfied that not and cold-blooded have a strong relationship, and the way I look at it with not is a switch on or off. It's on or off, and it's on or off of what comes after it. What's after it that we're switching on and off, not what comes before it. I don't know, that's my view. I'm sure there's somewhere we can look it up as well. All right, so let's clear all of that. Everybody happy with that? Hope so. I do love. Oh, there's always the WVC test. And that's William Van Cleave. What's his test? I forgot. Oh, good question. Sorry, there's more questions here. When you talk about switching not with another adverb, then it makes it an adverb. Yep, always is an obvious adverb, so must be not as an adverb. Yeah, I do. Yeah, and I think you're right, Sharon. And Rebecca, when you talk about switching not with another adverb, then it makes it an adverb. Or we could switch not with another word that has a similar relationship with the adjective or the verb that's coming afterwards. But yeah, but I'm trying really hard not to say adverb here. But it's to me, it's very obviously an adverb.